You're listening to Hunting the Frontlines, part of the Prayin and Slayi podcast network. This show is led by retired Army Sergeant Justin Wilson and dedicated to the men and women hunters who serve or have served in the U.S. military and chase game wherever they're stationed. From on-base hunts to wild ground just outside the wire, Hunting the Frontlines is your go-to resource for scouting new terrain, learning the ropes, and making the most of every opportunity at your next duty station. Now let's dive in.
I set my room up the way I have it set for a purpose. So see behind me on the wall, right?
Yep.
I don't want to say it's my wall of shame. It's more of it's a wall of shame, but it's on me. It shows that it takes me a long time to learn lessons.
Okay.
So, in my living room, I've got my big boys out so everybody can see them. These guys were mistakes I made by not using my binos. And yeah. So it's like,
What do you mean mistakes? They look like nice bucks to me.
I mean, they're good bucks, but it's just like so the one over to my left, your right of my turkey is that's the one I shot in Illinois my first year. I liked him because he got his G3 is bent over.
Yeah.
So he must have damaged it in velvet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But it's like the one over on the other side there on the bottom. That's the one I shot in Montana in my front yard. Well, I guess I'm sorry, my backyard.
That looks like a cool Montana, like a very typical Montana buck. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's just like if I'd had my binos, I wouldn't have shot him. I'd have let him go and grow for another year. It's like,
oh man, that Montana one, dude. There's some slammers in Montana, but like in Montana, if that guy popped out and I wanted to shoot a whitetail, I wouldn't have hesitated. I'm like, yep, he's going down. For a Montana whitetail, it's very typical.
There were bigger ones on camera there at my place. I mean, I only had 8 acres there, but I was bordered by the guy behind me, which we used to hunt it too. He had 600 some acres back there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get some giants coming through my yard.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, I had cameras up all at the bottom there in that field. It's like, man, I really wanted to wait for one of those big boys to walk out. And he come running through chasing a doe, and I had just had surgery. I wasn't even supposed to be using a gun. I grabbed my 6.5 and walked out the back deck. Boom! And then I got over to him. I was like, I should have let him go. So
I don't know. Well, I mean, there's a chance you could have shot a bigger one, but like I said, that one. Well, and the thing with Montana deer too, so if for people on audio right now, it's is he a 9?
No, he's an 8.
So he's a mainframe 8. Well, so Montana.
Yeah, well, he's an 8.5.
He's got that little kicker there at the end of the GT, they're the main beam. So, but Montana 4x4, everywhere else an 8 standard basket rack 8, I'd say, a little wider than a basket. He's bigger than a basket rack. Yeah. Good mass, chocolate horns, just very, very symmetrical. But like the thing to remember with Montana deer is you put a Texas deer body on a more massive rack structure is kind of like how to describe a Montana deer. It's interesting because they've got plenty of food. It's not like a food thing, but it's not the same gene strain that you find like in Iowa or the Midwest. Bodies in the Midwest are way bigger. A Montana deer, like a big one's probably 200 pounds. So that's like big.
Oh yeah.
Body size, but like they have that real tight face on them, like square nose. So you put that rack on a Montana whitetail, he's gonna look big stepping in your backyard. Like I don't care who you are.
Oh yeah.
But what is he? Probably 120, maybe.
Probably 110. I'd say probably 110, closer to that.
Anything over 15 inches is good for me. So
see, your standards are higher than mine. I go about 10. Anything over 10 is good.
The Montana standard for it to be a buck is 4 inches above its head, dude. So
that's true. That's true. 4 inches is big to anybody.
I was digging through some video the other day, dude, of Montana footage because I'm starting to go through and finally edit just the stockpile of hunts that I've got backlogged on all my stuff. And in this the last season I was there, I don't remember what I was hunting for. I went out to this spot, ended up spotting this what I thought was a doe. I had a whitetail doe tag for whatever area this was, region 4, I think. And anyway, get out to this spot and I think I'm just hunting mule deer, but I see this, what I thought was a doe by itself, which is kind of odd, just cruising across this wheat field. And I'm like, that's badass. And so I just like, my head's like, cool, I'll put a stock on it. Why not? Let's see what happens, So, and I get out there and I make the drive around this unit because it started going away from where I was or whatever. And so I make the drive, park in this other parking spot, get out, then I see it crest this hill. So I'm like, oh, perfect. I got right in front of it. So I crawl out there. I'm laying on top of this hilltop. turn the FTS on, and I'm recording, and as this thing gets over, I can start to make out that it's got, spikes above it. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense why it's cruising by itself. But then I'm like, God, what are the rules on spikes? Because in some states, if it doesn't fork, it's considered a
Yeah.
doe or whatever. I'm just putting meat in the freezer, so I really don't care. But I
Yep.
also don't want to put my buck tag on a spike. And
No.
so anyway, I literally pull out the phone. I've got all this time because it's just taking its time cruising towards me. I'm filming it the whole time through the crosshairs, like getting great footage. And anyway, I pull out my phone and I'm sitting there recording this deer while I'm also reading the regs of like what a classifies. Well, I think in Montana, and check your regs. Don't take this to heart, but check your regs. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure at least that year in Montana it was like it has to be 4 inches or less than 4 inches or something like that.
Yep.
So then I'm sitting there, dude, for probably 40 minutes through the scope, just trying to decide. Like, I mean, I think, dude, it was as close to 4 inches as you could possibly get. And you know me, like I'm a guy I'm not gonna let a tag go to waste. Like I'm gonna fill a
Nope.
tag, I'm gonna put meat in my freezer. Like it was just one of those things. And I got to the point where I just sat there so long, I was literally debating like the screw it factor, just do it. And if it's over four, throw your buck tag on it. If it's
Yep.
not, throw your doe tag on it. But like I never did it. I never shoot it. But I found that video in my files. I was like watching it. And it's some great video. If it would have been a cool buck or something, it would have been better. Or if it would have been a doe and I would have smoked it, it would have been way better. But it was just one of those weird hunts where I wasted way too much time on a deer I didn't end up shooting just because I was literally debating on is that 4 inches or not. And I don't know any like deer measurements. I didn't know like how big a whitetail's ears are to try to like gauge it or
Yep.
anything. It's just like
Yep.
God, I mean, it was close. Like I'd be surprised if it was over 4 inches. But either way, that deer lived to see another day. So
It's the internal struggle we all go through at
oh
some
yeah.
point.
Oh
I've
yeah.
done the same thing. That was like my first Wyoming trip out there with Eric and all those guys antelope hunting. They're guiding me in. I'm down in a little ravine coming up, and Eric's on the radio. Dude, you got 3 doe heading your way. Well, there's a hill in front of me. I can't see up over. He's like, dude, they're right on top of you. I don't see them. Well, the first one pops up over the hill, so I pull up, boom, drop it. I get up to it. It's got 2 little spikes. I start freaking out, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta use my buck tag on this. So I
Yeah.
call him on the radio. I was like, man, it wasn't a doe, it's a buck. He goes, how big are they? I said, probably 2 inches. He goes, oh, you're good. It's got to be 4 inches. You're good. It's a doe.
Yep.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I thought the whole time, and then I had to carry it out because it's raining, it's muddy. You can't drag them in the mud. So I got over my shoulders carrying it. And Eric's like, why'd you shoot that thing so far back? You guys are telling me they're coming. You're telling me to shoot. He's like, I didn't realize how far you were. You knew. He's like, you should have shot that far. It took me forever to get it back out there to the road. But yeah, the whole time I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna have to tag this with my buck tag. I was like, this sucks.
Right. You're
I'm out
dreaming
here.
of dreaming of a wall mounter and you got a spike to take home.
Yeah, I thought,
Yep.
come on, man. No, I didn't have to. Thank God. I was like, oh,
That happens, man. Like you said, it's the struggle we all play. Well, hell, Montana was full of them with that and the turkey hunt we went on. We sat there watching that bearded hen and literally trying to get enough service while we're debating. Like, just I'm glad we didn't shoot it, but like we're sitting there like, oh, in a lot of states, a bearded hen classifies this. Montana
yep.
it doesn't. So you gotta read your eggs, and thank goodness we had service to be able to look that up. And while we were sitting there, friggin' beads trained on her, just ready to rock.
That was fun.
Old
That's a
Tina,
good hunt. I enjoyed that.
that was good.
You and the
That was
woodpecker,
something.
I swear. You guys had a romance going.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, tell me. So I think we broke the ice a little bit on,
Yeah.
hunting the front lines here. But man, tell me about it. Tell me about hunting the front lines.
Being in the military, you can, you know, feel the same thing that I'm going through with this too, is you've been there, done it. You move around a lot. And I'm not the only one. You've got all these different branches out there. They all move around. They're going base to base to base. And a lot of military guys are hunters. They are. And then, like me and you spoke before, it's not even just the active duty guys, all these vets. When vets retire, most of the time, I would say, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'd say at least 75% of the time, they retire close to military bases for the medical care. And they want to go on base and hunt. It's just easier most of the time. Now, some bases are kind of difficult. I wanted to start this, man. For one, I want to get the information out there to everybody because I know me, it took me trial and error to figure out what to do to hunt all these bases. And you know me, I travel every year. I don't travel as much as I want to, as I still got 3 little boys that are in sports and all that. But I still do travel some during the season to go to different places and hunt. And you got to start out months in advance. You know, because some states you got to put in for draws. Other states, like you said, it's all about reading the regs. Well, some of this stuff, man, is kind of confusing in the regs. So you got to make 15 different phone calls, and it's like, you know, a buddy of mine, we went hunting out in Missouri a couple years ago. I'd hunted in Missouri years past, but they had changed the way that all the tagging, everything was done. When I was stationed back there at Fort Leonard Wood, you had to buy two tags. You had to buy your state tags, and you had to turn around and buy tags for Fort Leonard Wood. Well, I'm glad I did my research and actually called them for two reasons. One, I didn't have to do that anymore. I just bought one set of tags. It was just my state tags. The state tags were good for post. And then number two, I found out that me being a 100% disabled vet, even though I'm not a resident, I still get resident prices. And every state, every military installation is different. They all have their own little quirks they have. So it's like, I want to get this information out there. I want to get it out to everybody. Plus, I took a page from your book, and I'm gonna have you throw out a little thing here for your podcast too, because you helped me out a lot. So I want to get that out there to everybody to listen to too. But I want to get the information out to people and have people come on and just talk and go over everything, because you know as well as I do, moving around, and I'm going to have you on again to talk about your experiences coming from the East Coast going out west. It's a completely different way of hunting in general. Plus, there's so much more that goes into it. So I'm going to dedicate one whole episode just to your experiences out there, because I got there before you did was hunting. My mind was blown. Honestly, I didn't realize all it was going to go into this. And you know, here I am. I've had two neck surgeries before that. I've had, you know, my shoulders, all these surgeries done. So I wasn't in the greatest health to begin with. It's like, man, this is a lot different hunting. You're not just going out climbing a tree stand and sitting for hours. There's a lot of walking involved. You're carrying a lot of extra gear, because if you get up in the mountains and snow comes in, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So I just want to get the information out to everybody. And then plus, I'm going to expand it a little bit where it's not just about hunting on installations. I want to get other individuals that we know or friends of ours, whatever, that live in these different states too, and get their input on hunting their areas. Because like we just talked about, people travel to hunt. So I can get those states out there. If there's a guy listening, oh man, I want to go to Minnesota and hunt. Here's the information for you. This is what you got to do.
Yeah.
So it's just, I want to help out vets, active duty. I want to just help out anybody. I want to get later on, you know, seasons down the road, once I'm not an expert at this by any means, because I don't think I'll ever be, but you know, once I get my feet wet with it a little bit and get a little more comfortable, I want to get into stuff with kids too, because I love taking my boys hunting. I know you're going to be the same way. You're going to be taking your son hunting all the time. So I want to get out there, and you know, if you got a dad that's just kind of new to hunting, but he wants to get his kids involved too, maybe we can give him some tips and tricks on how to make it a little easier on himself.
Yeah, man. No, I love that. So nuts and bolts, hunting the front lines, you know, about hunting on military installations, just being a military member. And there's a bunch of us that love to get out there, hunt, fish, enjoy the wild places of all these cool places we get stationed. We don't always get the lottery draws on where we go, but when the government says you're moving here, I think one of the first things we all do is say, oh, that's cool. Like, what can I hunt there? What can I fish there? Where
Yes.
am I going to go? Where's the public spots? Can I hunt on base? Can I not? There's a bajillion questions. And unfortunately, we don't get to like settle down somewhere for 20 years and just figure it out, you know, over the course of a lifetime. We have a very short window a lot of times. Like, you know, I'm here in Texas for right now. I have 14 months here in Texas, and 3 or 4 of those months are already gone. And I haven't even gotten out to go fishing or anything yet, but it's like, you know, it's just one of those things. There's like this weird pressure cooker too that, you know, I think what you're doing here with hunting the front lines and being able to provide just the raw information of, hey, you're going to Montana, hey, you're going to Virginia, you're going to Maryland, you're going to Illinois, you're going to Ohio, wherever you're going here in the States, and maybe it expands further than that eventually, because my biggest fear is that my wife's going to get stationed in Europe somewhere. And I'm going to have to leave my guns at my dad's house or something. Be like, what the hell? But there's cool stuff to hunt there too, right? Like there's ways to do it. And I know
Yeah.
some buddies now that have been stationed in Germany, and they had to leave all their gear at home, but now they're part of hunt club and they go do some crazy cool stuff out there, you know? So
Yeah.
like there is opportunities everywhere we go to enjoy those wild places and do the things we love, you know, kind of part of who we are. But the pressure cooker scenario is that, God, I've only got so many years here. And, you know, Montana, you already talked about heading out west, dude. It's like first time in my life that all of a sudden hunting elk and black bear and mule deer and antelope and all those cool things that like I've never even thought I would ever go do as a Midwest
Yep.
boy growing up. It's like the bucket list, or I've got to pay thousands of dollars to go figure out that hunt. But like, dude, I can be a resident in 6 months and I can go hunt all these things, and it cost me, $200 all in for all my licenses. Like just being able to provide that resource to help people shorten that learning curve is huge, man. I'm
Yep.
really stoked for what you're doing here.
Thanks, man. Yeah. And well, I'm glad you brought that up too, that you're in Texas. So you're actually gonna be doing 2 episodes for me for sure, guaranteed. Because, I'm not one of those guys, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and be like, oh man, Texas has been on my bucket list. I've always wanted to do it. I'm interested in Texas. I am. And especially after killing the one that I killed this year, how wide he was. That's a normal Texas buck down there. It seems like all these TV shows you watch, all the Texas bucks are always real wide. So it's like, okay, now I kind of want to go check it out. But I've got other buddies of mine down there, and they said the same thing that you've said before. It's Texas is kind of a hard place to hunt. There's not a
It
lot of
really is.
spots to go unless you want to spend a fortune to go hunt them.
Yep.
I can't. And I'll be honest, man, I'm 47 years old. I didn't get to hunt as much as I wanted to in the Army until kind of later on in my career, because the first 10, 12 years of my career, I was TDY all the time, or I was deployed a lot.
Yeah.
So towards the end of my career, as I'm winding down to go to retire, I got to hunt a lot more. But in 47 years of life, I've never paid to go on a guided hunt at one of these, like going to Iowa, going to, Missouri, Ohio, whatever, and going to a guide service. And I just can't do it because I don't want to spend $4,500 to go hunt a whitetail. I don't.
Yeah.
When I can step
Yep.
out my back door on my property and go and, my deer this year, man, the record
Yeah.
was. And
Yeah.
it cost me zero.
Yep.
So
Yeah. That's huge. And just yeah, I mean, because a lot of guys, I think they kind of get in that camp too, or maybe they feel like there's a limitation on, God, I'm gonna have to invest in all this different gear, right? Because you talked about like, I'm gonna keep using my experience here, but going from, grew up in Iowa, that's one way of hunting. Go to the
yep,
East Coast, actually not that much different. It's definitely a
yeah,
warmer climate than Iowa is during hunting season, so maybe I don't need as many layers to go sit most days or whatever. But the
yeah,
gear's the same, the game's the same. Sit in one spot, wait for the deer to get there. Gun drives and hunts are relatively similar. You go to Montana, and all of a sudden it's like, man, with the exception of your shotgun, like your shotgun and your bow, all the gear you have, you got to totally rethink it. It's like,
yeah,
what a waste. And so like, and maybe that's something, with this too. I'm excited to see what you get into on those. Like, how do you just help someone be generically prepared to hunt wherever? Because we don't know
yeah,
where we're going every year, and we're going to get our list. We're coming up on,
yep,
like I said, we're a few months into this deployment, and we've already got our list coming out here for our next duty stations of the options we'll have, and then we put in for our five, top five, and hope we get one of those. But either way,
yeah,
until the government says, "Yep, here's your assignment, here's where you're going," we don't know. But I think coming from that experience of going from Midwest East Coast to Montana taught me a lot more of just like you don't need as much gear as you might think.
yeah,
In Montana, you might need a lot of gear for a certain type of hunt you're going to go do. But
yes,
what that showed me is like when it comes to your clothes, your boots, a pack, and the basic like kill kit,
yeah,
there's really like 5 or 6 things I think a hunter could have in their arsenal as far as like the general gear to go. And
yeah,
you'd probably now, if I would have hunted Montana first, I think I'd been set for anywhere else I could go. But I
yeah,
did the opposite, right? So I'm all dedicated and decked out to hunt in one super cold climate. But now I could, I think you could simplify that just with the experience that you've got going all over the place hunting, or the different vets you're going to have on talking about all this. Like, there's
yeah,
really a consolidated set of gear that a hunter might actually need, because that's one of the biggest intimidation factors. Is maybe there's someone. Well, I have neighbors in Montana on base that I got them, or because I was a hunter, they got into hunting. They're like, man, that's really cool, and we're in this great state, and it's got all these hunting things to go
yep,
chase. Like, I'll get into that. But then they're also sitting there going, okay, like, get out the checkbook, boys, because it's about to be real expensive. So just knowing what you could get into a dangerous trap. And even down here in Texas, I saw I know for sure he was a military dude. We can all tell each other walking through a store, you can pretty much point out who's military, who's not.
Oh yeah.
But this dude was standing at Academy Sports and he was sitting there looking at arrows. And I know just by the way his body language was and the way he was like looking these arrows over, and he had like five different types of arrows in his hand. I'm like, this boy is brand new to archery. He probably doesn't know anything about it. He's probably just looking like, oh, this one's got cool veins, and I don't know what these numbers mean on this one, and oh, that's
Yep.
this one looks long enough, like But either way, like it was one of those things you got to walk over there and just be that resource, be like, hey man, like
Yep.
I don't want to interject myself here, but it looks like you might be trying to figure out narrow selection. Like, let's talk about it, dude, because I've bow hunted my whole life. Like,
Yep.
and I know how intimidating just something as simple as arrow selection can be. So being able to like just provide a one-stop resource for someone who's new to the sport
Yeah.
and be able to just say, hey man, like I'm interested in hunting. I'm getting stationed in Montana. Like, oh cool, Hunting the Frontlines podcast. They have an episode on Montana hunting, the gear you need, or whatever, right? Like that's
Yep.
gonna be so huge for people. That's awesome because I mean it was literally walking my buddies through like what gun should I get, what caliber should I choose, what boots should I get, what hunting
Yes.
clothes do I need, what pack do I go with, and some guys are the guys who are like, I'm just going to buy the most expensive thing because it's got to be the best. And other guys are like, dude, I've got a $300 budget. How do I even get into this? So
Yes.
like, that's huge in itself.
Well, and that's something that I've been kicking around the idea for a couple weeks now, and it's like you touched on it right there. Me and my wife had talked about it a little bit too. I learned a very valuable lesson 2 years ago. I went to Wyoming. Now I've hunted Wyoming numerous times for antelope. I'd never gone for elk, and I'd never gone in this unit. So this is going to actually turn into two stories here. Number one, I learned about some gear that I didn't have that I found out later I kind of needed because we were way up in the mountains and we were camping up there and we were elk hunting up there. We were elk hunting and deer hunting up there. And we should have had some sort of weather radio. Luckily, DNR came by and the guy told us, like, you guys need to get the hell out of here now. He's like, pardon my French, but you guys got to go. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, I'm running everybody off the mountain. He's like, we have a blizzard coming in. If you guys don't get out of here in the next 2 hours, you're going to be stuck here. And when I say stuck, you're looking at 10, 15 days. You're going to be here.
Yeah.
Great. So, we learn from that. And then I also want to incorporate into this podcast. I don't know if I'll start it right now or maybe just like I said before, get my feet wet first and then do it later. But I also want to put resources out for vets too. And because there's a lot of resources out there for vets when it comes to hunting that we don't know about. There's an organization and there's a way in Wyoming you can get free tags. As a non-resident, you get free tags. And we had no idea about it. So I went on a free elk hunt. All I had to do was pay my way to get out there. And then it's all DIY. You're all doing it yourself. But this organization got us in contact with DNR. And what it is landowners buy their tags and they donate them.
Oh, wow.
They donate them back to DNR, and then all you got to do is go on this website, and you pick what unit you want to go into. You pick what animal you want to hunt, and if they have tags available for that unit, you put your name in for them. They mail the tag right to you, and it's all
Wow.
free. You don't pay anything for it. So as a non-resident, I'm hunting an elk out there. Now, most of the units that people donate tags for, they're pretty hard units to hunt, but if you can drive up in the mountains, you can make it through and hunt. And we found ways that me and my buddy both were disabled vets. We still found ways to get in and hunt. We got on elk, just couldn't get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And a hunt's a hunt, man. Like just
yeah,
getting out in the wilderness and doing your thing, just having the opportunity is huge. And
yeah,
and especially a place that like Wyoming, Montana now, a lot of their states, it's all draw, and that's its own bit. And
yep,
so being able to consolidate all that information on not only like what you can hunt there, what
yep,
are the regulations, at least in general, as it pertains to a vet or resident versus non-resident, whatever the
yep,
case is, gear you might need to go, places you can go, like different states. Texas, we're stationed at Fort Hood here, so we can hunt on Fort Hood. So getting on base hunting, that's kind of like in my head right now, that's kind of like the easy button for hunting Texas, in my opinion. There's
yeah,
other places I can go or do another work that I can find maybe some public ground here and there, but like it's not that kind of a state. Where
yeah,
Montana, I don't know if there's any bases you can hunt on, but they just don't have the space or the resources for it. But
mm,
you could hunt your whole life in the state of Montana and never touch every piece of public ground you could get on. It's just insane.
No,
So, but yeah, being able to consolidate all those resources is huge. Opportunities like that, like you might not even know about. Like you might think something's out of reach,
yeah,
but actually because you put in your time and you raised your hand to serve, that there's opportunities to go hunt awesome places like Wyoming that you may think that make it way easier that you may have written off. And
yep,
then maybe even things to be careful about too, because like I grew up in Iowa, I was an Iowa resident. Um, when we got stationed in Wyoming, my wife and I were both stationed out there. So I was currently serving. She was in active duty as well. And then we get stationed out there, and I come find out kind of the hard way that Virginia is one of those very military friendly states that says, hey, if you're here, if you're actively serving, or if you're immediate family, so spouse or kids of an active
mm-hmm.
duty service member that's actively serving in that state, you get a hunt as resident too. But
Yep,
taking advantage of resident privileges, like you said, you get to do in some of the states you've been in,
yep,
it might mean you have to sacrifice certain resident privileges in other places too. So I learned the weird way that Iowa is very unfriendly when it comes to that stuff. If you have, they're just very protective of their
yep,
resident hunting stuff. But because I
yep,
was an Iowa resident stationed in another state as an active member, and taking advantage of resident services or privileges in Virginia, Iowa didn't, like, all of a sudden they switched my category to non-resident, even though I'm a tax-paying resident of the state of Iowa. But
oh
going
wow,
back to hunt there, it got me in this whole thing. It turned out to be a gray area, and I pushed really hard on trying to get those regs changed because it's kind of BS if you think about it. But just things to think about. And I didn't know until DNR came
yep,
knocking on my door and said, hey, tell us about how you're hunting here. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm an Iowa resident. Like, get off my porch,
yeah, yeah,
But it's just one of those things. That's how I got flagged in the system, was just because the system sync, and Virginia's system told Iowa that I'm hunting as a resident in Virginia, even though Iowa says I'm a resident there, and Iowa's system automatically rejects the resident status then because you've taken privileges in another state. And so now that's written in
yep,
Iowa's regs is you can't have dual residency privileges is how it's written. But military members are kind of, you're an exclusive group, but at the end of the day, certain states are very friendly, and Iowa is just one of those ones that doesn't reciprocate that. So things to think about, that
yep,
also you might get caught into, things to avoid, things to check, or just call your local DNR office. Hey, you have a home state of Indiana. Make sure
yes,
you call the state of Indiana and say, hey, I plan to hunt here this year, but I'm a vet, I'm a disabled vet, whatever. I'm going to hunt in these three other states. Is this going to disqualify me from anything here? I don't want to be doing things I'm not supposed to be doing. So just, learning from our mistakes and hard learning lessons and stuff too is a big thing. And learning from other vets that'll come on and talk about their experiences too.
yes, yeah. I think this is going to be really great. I mean, I've put a lot, and I'm not kidding when I say this, man. I've put a lot of phone calls in because I do travel as much as I can. It's harder for you right now because your son's so young right now. Now, as he gets older, you'll be able to take him with you a lot more. I can't take all three of my boys with me at the same time to go hunt. It's there's too much stuff that goes into it. I'm not even going to try to do it. So I try to plan a trip every year where I can take them with me, but it hasn't worked out the last few years due to sporting events. So I just hurry up, take a quick 4-day trip somewhere to go. But it's like, man, like I said, I got to call months in advance just to make sure I'm doing everything by the book. And I tell them that, listen, I'm not trying to waste your time. I just want to make sure I'm doing everything legally. I don't want to get out there and something happen. Now I'm losing my hunting privileges for a year, maybe my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, every state, I wish it was across the board. Every state was the same. All rules,
Yeah.
regulations were across the board in all 50 states. But it's never going to be that way. It's never going to be that way. Some states are starting to kind of come around and change things like Missouri did. But man, it's just there's a lot that goes into it. But I think this right here will be a great platform to get that information out to just anybody. It doesn't have to be vets, it doesn't have to be active duty, it can be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't care to help anyone out when it comes to hunting. I want to make sure that I get those vets and those active duty guys that information because I have a bond with those guys. We've been through the same thing. So I want to get that out to them, but I want to get it out to everybody. I mean, if you've
Mm-hmm.
got a guy sitting in his living room right now, it's like, man, I really want to go to, like you said, Montana to hunt. Hey, this is a gear you're going to need. If you're going after elk, you're going to be in the mountains. This is a gear you need. You're going to be, Montana's wintertime is wintertime's 7-8 months up there most of the time, sometimes
Yeah.
longer. They just got a
Yeah.
snowstorm last week.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going this time frame, it's going to be cold. You're going to need this, this, and this. You know, yeah, you live in Kentucky, you hunt down there, your wintertime, it can get pretty nasty, but you need a little bit more gear up there. And you're going to want to take a first aid kit. You're going to want to take this. You're going to have that. I want to get all that information out to people. I don't want somebody going up there and getting set up for failure. So if I can at least get it out and maybe I only reach 25 people this month, but then those 25 people will turn around and they'll tell 25 friends of theirs. They'll turn around and tell 25 more people. I can reach the masses in, a short amount of time. I feel good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, man. Well, tell us about the types of guests. Obviously, you and I are both vets. Like, what type of people are you going to have on here to talk about this kind of stuff?
so I've got a few active duty guys coming on. I've got a couple retired guys coming on. I'm also getting in contact with like me and you talked about before. I want to get a couple different bases. I want to get their hunt control guys on to talk about their rules and regulations for hunting that base. The do's and don'ts, any kind of tips they'll have, because they know any hunt control office, those guys hunt on base like crazy because they're always out working. Most bases now are actually really getting into I can't say quality deer management, we're getting more into quality game management. And like Fort Knox, they're actually putting out probably 25, 30 food plots a year. And they're
Okay.
doing I just noticed this year we were down there hunting for turkey, and they actually have a couple areas now they have set aside for quail and pheasants. You can't
Oh
go in
wow.
there. Yeah, you got to stay out of those areas all year long until quail and pheasant season comes in. But they're building a habitat up for them. Those are the guys that do it. Those are the guys that go out and get boots on ground and do a lot of that. So I want to get a few of them on from different bases to come on and talk about it too, because I'm not asking them to tell their honey holes, none of that. But I want them to go over the rules, regulations of hunting on base. Plus, like Fort Knox now has a new policy where the deer has to be even with its ears. So the guy told me, he's like, we go about 15 and a half inches inside spread. We don't, you're not going to get fined for it. You won't lose your privilege to shoot one smaller than that, but they're trying to get a better quality herd down there. And Fort Knox, they have monster bucks killed every year because of their quality deer management program they're doing. And it's working great. It really is. And every base is different. Like Fort Leonard Wood used to be, when I was stationed there, it had to have 4 on one side. Well, now they don't do that for the last couple of years because they had EHD go through real bad. And what their biologists are figuring out is the younger whitetail are more susceptible to EHD. The older, more mature bucks, the way it was explained to me, they've kind of built up, I don't want to say a tolerance to it, they can still die from it. But I guess just the length of life and the more stress has been put onto them from all the nasty winters and all that, and all the hunting pressure and stuff, it's kind of built them up a little more. So
Hmm.
their tolerance was a little better for it. So they were telling us out there when we were hunting 2 years ago, if you see a spike, shoot it. If you want to
Hmm.
kill it, shoot it. We don't have the 4 on one side going on right now because we've noticed a lot of the younger, more immature deer are dying from this. So we're trying to get the herd kind of not really thinned out, but kind of cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to have a ton of different guests. I plan on having John come on. He's never been in the military, but the guy kills giants every year.
Heck yeah, dude. And for those of you listening who may not know, John Landers is who he's talking about. He's been on the Prayin and Slayi podcast back in the day. Him and I used to do a lot of co-hosted episodes, and he's kicking off his own buck takers, turkey takers, laker takers, all part of the combined. If you listen to the early episodes of Praying and Slaying, a lot of those turkey takers, buck takers are in there. But anyway, Game Takers podcast is what he'll be kicking off. But John, to what Justin just said, a lot of J's going on. John, Justin. But yeah, Josh, Jeremy, everybody. John is a just die hard, get in the nitty gritty details, dive 15 miles off into the swamp in Minnesota and kill the biggest, meanest, nastiest buck he can find. Like that
Yep.
is just what he eats, breathes, and sleeps on. Like to the point where, a previous job we worked at together, he had an opportunity to go on like a bear hunt. And he's like, do you have any whitetail hunts I can go on instead? What the hell, dude? You've never killed a bear before. You've never been out west. You want to give up an Idaho bear hunt opportunity to go shoot a Missouri whitetail? He's that guy. Like that is his game. But no, he'd be huge, man. And I love that you're bringing guys on like that just want to talk
Yes.
about tips and tricks about the game we're chasing, because that's another thing. Like coming again, I'll use myself as an example. Coming from Midwest, I grew up hunting whitetails and turkeys, and the occasional coyote when it run under the stand or whatever, right? But then you go out to the East Coast, you're chasing the same thing. You're chasing whitetails and turkeys, maybe getting into bear hunting, depending what you're into. But
Yeah.
then you head out west, and it's like, holy crap, antelope, elk, bighorn sheep, mountain goat, There's occasional caribou, like whatever you want to get into, like
Yep.
the world's your oyster. But man, is that all different hunting, and it's all different scenarios. So having an expert on to talk about those different things would be huge, man. Like, how do you elk hunt if you've only
Yeah.
ever whitetail hunted? How do you whitetail hunt better if we've grown up hunting whitetail? But we've kind of just gotten into it. Like, what do I need to know to be a better whitetail hunter? And you name the species, man. Like having people on there to just shorten that learning curve would be huge.
Yep. I plan on getting anybody I can get on this podcast. I'm getting them on. I'm talking, I'm starting out. I'm starting out just kind of easy, getting friends and family on, and guys that I know are big into the hunting industry and stuff, getting them on. But I'll be honest, man. My overall goal is to get these guys that do this for a living, pretty much. I hate to use the term, but professional hunter. You hear it all the time. To me, you're never really a professional. And
Mm-hmm.
I know Michael Waddell feels the same way. He said the same thing. I've seen a lot of his interviews and stuff. He hates that term. But that's pretty much how everybody looks at them. They're professional hunters. That's what they do for a living. I'd
Yeah.
like to get guys like that on here because you can't beat the experience that they have. You can't beat the
Yeah.
knowledge they have. And they love, I'm not saying this to be a bad thing, but they love talking about themselves, I guess, a little bit because they have the knowledge, they have the experience. They love getting that
Yeah.
out there to everybody. And that's what a true hunter is. A true hunter is willing to pass that knowledge down to just guys like me and you. We don't
Yeah.
we don't do this for a living. We do it for, I don't want to say a hobby because hobby is the wrong term. We do it to feed our families. We do it
Yeah.
for me. I've done I have 7 deployments under my belt, but 4 of those are friggin' Kosovo, Bosnia, stuff like that. But I have 3 combat tours under my belt too, and this is a good release for me. Like I told you in the podcast I did with you before, the best part of hunting is not taking an animal. That's just a bonus. The best part of hunting is just being in the woods, watching the woods come alive. And nobody has more time in a tree stand than guys like Michael Waddell, Nick Munt, those guys. They have a ton of time in the stand. So why not? Maybe I never make it happen, but I'm sure going to try. I'm really going to try to get one of them on. It won't be this season. I'm not setting my bar too high, not like that. But after I get my feet wet on this and I get more experience with it, and I get more comfort with it, then yeah, I want to get one of those guys on to give their take on it because you can always learn. I
Yeah.
learn now. I've learned from John, talking to John on the phone. I've learned a lot from that guy.
Yep.
He helped me out last year with mine. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't know that I would have killed the deer. He gave me a
Yeah.
lot of good insight. I was like, man, that really helped a lot.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. No, it's in every hunter out there. If you've gone one day in the stand, you've got more knowledge than you think you do. You've
Yeah,
learned something. But the term professional hunter, it's kind of interesting. Like you said, I think I don't know, my experience getting in just working in the hunting industry for a little over a decade now is just like it can either the term professional gets weird because when you're almost overexposed to it and it kind of takes away from the like actual what you fell in love with hunting for, and you just hear
yep,
that like a lot get thrown around like, oh man, if that'd be my dream job, man, if I could just work in the hunting industry and whatever. And like I remember one of the guys I used to work with, one of the old sales guys, he was like, that's funny, man, I got a job in the hunting industry and I've never had time to hunt less, like, and it's so true, man. When it's like anything you do, you're a park ranger, you're working when everybody else is out playing on the weekend, or it sounds great. You're a game warden. You are working when everybody else is out hunting in the field. If you're, you got to find the love of what you do, but there's definitely a balance there. But then you get like the professional. Yes, they are paid to do what they do because they've put in that hard work and networked and done the just insane level of stuff it takes to make it to that level to where they are the face of a TV show or whatever. But at the end of the day, their core is, and you maybe elevating a little bit saying like, I don't know if I'll put my podcast at that level, dude, but dude, it's just about having a conversation with a hunter, and that's what
yeah,
we're doing at the end of the day, right? And
yeah,
every hunter out there, if you've hunted, okay, maybe if you've hunted once, I'm not going to call you a professional, but if you've
yeah,
hunted, we'll give it 3 times. If you've got in the field for the third time, there's something you liked enough to get out there and do it again. By the third time you're hunting, you're probably picking up knowledge that I might not have, or whatever, because your experience is totally different than mine. You're a professional hunter. Like you get out there, you do it. But I think the better term, it's a lifestyle that we all live, and it's kind of a brotherhood we all have, and then tying that all back into the military aspect, the kind of the nuts and bolts and roots of this podcast is, you know, it's about getting like-minded people who all have similar experiences, walk similar things in this life, and
yep.
then community, bringing a community around. Obviously, in this case, hunting and or fishing or whatever opportunities are out there to enjoy at the places we all get stationed.
That was the main reason I told you and I told John too, is you both when I put it out there that I was leaving, You two called me within 30 seconds of each other. I hadn't been with them as long as you had, but I was there for 4 years. I dedicated my life and soul to that company. I did. Busted my butt for them. I was on the phone probably 20 hours a day, it felt like, getting different things set up. But I could see how it was going. And I didn't want to. I hated leaving Montana, number one. That was strike number one for me in that year. But then we were going to buy a piece of ground here. And I want to be able to put time into that ground and do what I wanted to do with it and get to where I'm at now. And I
Hmm.
knew staying in the hunting industry, I wasn't going to be able to do that. And just like
Yeah.
you said about the sales guy, I felt the same way. The years before that I'd been retired from the Army, I was hunting every day. I was hunting or fishing every single day. And then I got into the industry and I'd hunt maybe 4 times the whole season. And it's like I
Yep.
moved to Montana to be able to hunt everything. I mean, you have to admit, Montana's one of those states where you can hunt everything you want to hunt.
Hmm.
I mean, the only thing they don't have is caribou.
Yeah.
That's really well because they've got moose, they've got turkey, they've got bear,
Got
got deer,
bison,
got elk, got it all. It's like you can
mountain
hunt
goat,
everything right there in that
bighorn.
one state. But it's
Yep.
like, and me and you would talk. I'd be out because I did have a spot where I could go and put a tree stand up. I'd be in my climber. You'd call me about work. I was like, man,
Yeah.
I got to learn to shut my phone off. I have a power button. I just need to start using it.
Yeah.
But it's like it was nonstop work, and it was supposed to be a part time job. It was supposed to be, it was supposed to help feed into my passion, and it didn't. It took away from it.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I told you. I was like, man, it's not fun anymore. It
Yep.
sucked the fun out of it to where I didn't want to hunt anymore. I didn't want to be in the outdoors. And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't ever want to be that way because that's the one thing I have that keeps me, calm and relaxed and sane. I don't want to lose that. So I sat down and talked to Becky one night about it for probably 2 hours. I told her, so I got to figure something out. This is taking the fun away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
man, and I
just,
think it's one thing too, depending on I'm sure every company's different, but when if it's a
yes.
company that just requires you to sink your soul into it or it's not good enough type thing, that's one side of it. That could be the detriment to the passion you have for just being in the industry or being in the outdoor space. But
Yep.
also, I think there's just so much like it's almost like too much exposure, right? Like you just,
Yeah.
and every time you turn around or you open Facebook or Instagram, it's just like nonstop, 24/7. Like this dude shot a buck, this dude, and then it puts this weird pressure on it. It's like because when you don't have the time to get out, it's like it sucks the joy out of getting out there. But then it puts this weird pressure too, and like the time
Yes.
you do get to get out, it's just like all you've seen is the thousands of other people that you're now quote unquote connected with through
Yeah.
this industry or whatever that have been
Yep.
out hunting or putting all this time in it because it's all living on Facebook and living on Instagram and living in all these places, right? Because that's just this highlight reel of all this success that supposedly that everybody else is having. And
Yep.
then, or stories about big buck versus little bucks versus this. It's just like nonstop immersed in like this comparison, like who can put in more time and who's more dedicated and who's got the most passion and who's,
Yep.
lives, breathes, eats, and sleeps hunting. And like, dude, it just like, you're just like, God, like all you want to do is almost get away from it,
Yeah.
And so like, I think the overexposure for me, like that's really, the time to invest was one thing. But man, just the overexposure is just like, you get out there and you're kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, do I
Yeah.
actually still like climbing this tree? But then you go
Yep.
do it one day and you shut your phone off and you just sit there and I don't see anything and you just listen to birds and you watch the squirrels screw around and you're like, it just reminds you like it takes a few days to get back into it, I think sometimes, but that's a big part of it too. Is just it sounds cool because we all love to hunt and fish,
Yes.
but I don't know that we all maybe connect with ourselves enough to know like the reason why you like to hunt and fish is not for the lifestyle image of hunting and fishing. It's actually totally removed from that. But then when it
Yeah.
becomes your identity and like you feel like you've got to prove this next thing and you got to prove how much time and energy you put into it, how much you think about it all year round, and only 364 more days till next hunting season. You're like, bro, like you've already lost it. No one cares about how
Yeah.
much. Like it's all about get inside your heart, get inside your head,
Yep.
because you're going to lose it so fast it'll make your head spin if you think that that's the dream. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I put enough pressure on myself during hunting season. I don't need something else putting on there. And it's
Exactly.
it's it's funny because my whole hunting experience in Montana, I remember a funny story me you've talked about before. You made me want to throw my phone off the mountain one day. It was the first day I got to go out and go after elk the whole season. I'd been working my butt off for this company, putting in time, making phone calls to all these different organizations. talking to different team members in different states, talking to different companies in other states that I wasn't even working in just to help out because other guys were overwhelmed. And it's like, it was my fault. I took too much on myself, but I knew I could handle it. But I didn't realize what was going to come with that. And I finally got to go out elk hunting. The whole night before, man, I was in there till probably midnight, packing my pack up, getting all my gear set up, making sure I had everything. I went over my gear probably 10 times. I was just excited. I wasn't nervous, but I was just so excited about it that I had to make sure I had everything. I remember my neighbor walking over, knocking on my door the next morning. You know, he's got his headlamp on. I grab mine. We take off, cross the fence, and we go. We're just back there going and going and going. Just got daylight. We've got elk bugling just down this valley from us. You know, I'm all excited and stuff. And then I feel my pocket vibrate on my chest. I thought, man, this can't be happening. I feel it vibrate again. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Feel it vibrate again. I was like, okay, all right, let me take this. So I step away from Ryan. I'll go over and I answer my phone. It's you. And you instantly, what's going on with this? Take a step back, take a deep breath, hang up the phone, call me back with a better attitude. We'll talk about this. Click. I hang up. You gave it about 30 seconds. You called back like, hey, man, what's happening with this? There you go. That's yes. We get it worked out. And I get off the phone. He goes, everything okay? I was like, yeah. I said, I love doing what I do to a point. But there's a point where I've got to be able to take time for myself. And I don't want to turn my phone off out there because if something happens to one of my kids, I want to be able to get back in a good amount of time to help out. But it's like, man, I want to just be out here in nature and just hunt. I just want to, I'm promoting hunting for this company, but I'm not promoting it for myself.
No, you're right, dude, and that's another thing you can probably tie into this podcast too is just getting there's lots of opportunities for vets getting out of the service and looking for other jobs. I've had I don't know probably 3 or 4 now that I've met that they're looking at getting out or separating or retiring, and one of the first things they do is reach out like, hey man, like you work in the industry, like is there any like companies out there hiring, or the company you're working for now, they need any jobs? And you're like kind of like, wait, what's your resume, like what are you
Yeah.
looking to get into? That's number one. But I would love to, I think it'd be neat to be able to just listen to people's experiences if they've been in the industry and they have previous service experience. That'd be
Yep.
a really cool angle too to get, just again tying all things hunting and networking together. But there's a
Yes.
bajillion job opportunities out there for guys looking. And, my experience, like I said, a little over a decade now, I'd 100% like there's things I would steer people clear from. And there's
Yep.
things that I would say, hey, like maybe look into this or the lifestyle, right? Like, hey, you're getting retirement, dude, like soak up that retirement, but maybe look at something part-time. So you kind of get the benefits of working in the industry, but again, you got your time and space to get out there and still
Yep.
enjoy what you're doing. Work in a department at a company that doesn't like suck the life out of you to where you're just like constantly just input
Yep.
too much or whatever. Um, that's another thing. Like, I'll just throw it out there. Sales, like if you sales can be fun and lucrative if you can make it that way, but boy, can it get crazy fast. And like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of companies out there, that's like one of the main things they're always hiring for, because there's a lot of turnover or they're expanding and growing the company, so they just need more people. But like you want to talk about sucking the life out of you fast, like sales is the number one way to do it, I would say. So like, yeah, could it be cool, could it be fun? Yeah, for sure. But just be cautious of it, I'd say. But maybe just the things to look for in a job after the military, especially in the outdoor space, things to stay away from, and then things to just make sure you're enjoying it and being in it for the right reasons. And but yeah, then gosh, let's talk too about the amount of organizations that are out there, like you already kind of touched on, that can help vets out. But boy, there's a lot of like nonprofits out there too that are constantly expanding or providing opportunities for vets to
Yes.
get involved in and go hunting and do different things. But some of those too have just like taking your service from this and finding your mission again in something else that just gives back to that community you were just a part
Yep.
of. There's a lot of opportunities there, man, that maybe aren't even directly tied to a company in the industry that's all about pumping the next sale, or whatever. Maybe it's more about giving back to the people that you're already a brotherhood or sisterhood of.
Yep.
So, Index Archery is one here, and you definitely need to have those guys on your podcast. But they,
Okay.
um, uh, McCoy is his last name, Jason. Anyway, I just had him on the Prayin and Slayi podcast, and I got a chance to go down and just meet one of the guys, donate a couple bows that I had sitting around, and their whole
Mhm.
thing is getting, and not every vet's going to have, it's not going to be the right fit for everybody.
Yeah.
But if archery is something maybe you're already kind of into, or it's something you've never tried before, but it's going to be a good fit for you. They do a vetting process and everything, but man, it can be very therapeutic to just get out there and just shoot a bow, and get into that to kind of give your mind something to focus on outside of whatever may be stressing you out, or the PTSD side of things or whatever. But
Yes.
just awesome organization. But even those guys, man, it's a whole network of active and previous vets that's what they do is they get out and they find people that need help, and a brother or sister in arms that just needs help to settle their mind right or get their mind out of the bottle or whatever it is, get
Yes.
them into a bow. And like, how cool is that? Like, you get to go out
Oh
and,
yeah.
like I said, we just went and met Nathan, the rep. He's active duty Air Force stationed at San Antonio right now. I went down, shot with him, donated a couple bows, and just the dudes that they bring in are just awesome people, man. So you want to talk about being a part of a good community
Yep.
and just take your service to the next, I'm not going to maybe call it the next level, but take that next step in service. Cause I think we all raised our hand, maybe thought it was cool in high school to say we're going to do
Yep.
this, or you truly had a heart that, man, I want to protect my home and my family, or whatever the reason was. You raised your hand for a reason. And
Yep.
even if it was a different reason to start, you probably found a deeper reason later on as you got deeper. But when you step away, I think we all miss that, or we
Oh,
feel like some kind of calling that's just not there anymore, or you don't know to your point, you took it and took on a role as a part-time as a company, as a team leader,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
your service minded personality just translated directly to that, right? And that all those things
Mhm.
that you build through your time in the military, they translate to a lot of things, and service is a huge part of it. So finding a place
Yeah.
to dive, that'd be kind of cool too, getting some of these guys on there that have these organizations or companies that just, maybe there's a lot of veteran owned and operated companies. So that's their heart, is making sure you have a place to land, and they
Yep.
want you to come in there and land there and find another purpose, find a job. So that'd be really cool to have those resources there too, because there's a lot of guys and gals for the veteran community that, post-service community that are be listening to this, that
Mhm.
maybe are looking for that next thing, and they're sitting at home and they haven't done anything in 6 months. We're like, God, I got to figure this out.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, definitely send me their information. I'd like to get in contact with them because I actually, now you say that, it brings up too. I just bought a new sling for my muzzleloader the other day, and it's made out of 550 cord, and it's a veteran owned company.
let
I
me
can't,
guess. Let me
for the
guess. Let
life of
me
me right now,
guess.
I cannot think who made that.
Is it
But
Jacked Gear?
what's that?
Is it Jacked? JAKT?
No, no,
Oh
it's
no.
I cannot remember the name of that now. It's even got their insignia and stuff on the sling. It's leather. It's a great sling. So my next episode, I will give them a plug and give them a shout out because I've had this thing for 2 hunting seasons now, and I actually just bought my second one for my muzzleloader now because I had one on my 6.5. Love it. It doesn't slip off my shoulder. It doesn't flop around. It's a great sling, and they're veteran owned too, and they hire a lot of vets.
Yep.
So I'm actually gonna
Yep.
get in contact with them and see if I can get them on too. There's so
Okay.
much you can do with hunting in general, and I feel like with all the ideas that you've thrown out just over the last couple months, I've got enough ideas. I could probably go 3 or 4 seasons, and I like that because now I can evolve it. And that was my biggest concern with this is, yeah, I can get guys on here to talk about on these different bases, but it's like eventually I'm going to run out of people to talk to. I'm going to have to really start making phone calls and just cold calls to people. And it's like I like it now as I can evolve it. I can
Yeah.
evolve it. I want to get as much information out to people as I can. I just don't want to. I don't want to overwhelm people with stuff. But it's like, to me, if you're a real hunter that really wants to get better in the hunting industry, or just not even in the industry, just hunting in general, I don't feel like you can give them too much information.
Yeah. Yep. We're all
So
gear junkies. We're all info junkies.
yes,
Yep.
yes, and I did this in my military career, and I'm going to do it now, where I'm always going to give out any advice I have. Any advice that can make you better, I'm going to give it out. Any knowledge I have, I'm going to put it out there because I feel like I always told my dog handlers and stuff in the kennels, you guys ever have questions, come ask me. If I don't know, I'll find the answer for you. But I'm not one of these guys where all the knowledge that I have when it comes to training dogs, I'm not keeping that to myself because that makes me a horrible person. I'm going to give my knowledge out to you guys to make you better handlers and better soldiers. And then I expect you to do the same thing with your guys. You pass that down onto them. And I actually just had one of my guys hit me up. It's been about 4 or 5 months ago. He sent me this big long message on Messenger. I hadn't talked to him in probably a year, and he was over in Belgium at the time. He sent me this big long message, and pretty much the gist of it was, he's like, "Hey, I want to thank you for everything you did for me." He was pinning on. He became a sergeant major,
Okay.
and he's like, "Dude, I've got 3 years. I retired." And he's like, "I made it to this point because of you. You helped guide my career so much, and I appreciate that. I want to reach out and tell you thanks."
That's awesome.
Dude, it pulled my heartstrings on, man. Thanks for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I was just doing what other supervisors for me had done before. I was doing the same thing. That's it. I didn't feel
Yep.
like I was going above and beyond. I wasn't doing anything special. I'm just passing on knowledge to you. That's it. But I
Yeah.
mean, really, it got me. I was like, at least I touched one person's career. I'm glad I helped. So I want to do the same thing in the hunting. I don't want to say, I'll say the outdoor community. I want to make this not, I mean, starting off, it's going to be mainly just about hunting, but I want to get it towards it's the outdoors in general,
Yeah, I love it.
because there's a lot of things in the outdoors that you can do for not just veterans, but for everybody. But I really want to focus on part of this for PTSD and veterans like that too. So it's kind of my way of giving back.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome, man. Yes, I mean, this is I mean, definitely, it's the more you and I have talked about this, and you're the official first expansion of the Praying and Slaying podcast. Is now Praying and Slaying Podcast Network. Hunting the Frontlines, the first official Praying and Slaying Network podcast. So that's pretty awesome, man. But yeah, just one of those ideas. After we got to talking a little bit about, it's like there's so many arms and legs and channels to this thing. It's just insane. And like you said, it's all rooted in hunting. It's like, hey, like we've both been stationed a handful of places, and it's a learning curve when you do it. How can we
yeah,
be a resource to, or how can you be a resource to do that? And then it's like every time we talk, there's another layer that gets added on. There's another idea
yeah,
that pops up. But I think at the end of the day, the best way to sum it up is it's a resource for hunters and outdoorsmen in the veteran or active space that are looking to shorten their learning curves or learn a little bit about hunting different places, shorten their learning curves when they get stationed somewhere new. And then beyond that, man, it turns into a kind of an outdoors related therapy session.
yeah,
You're going to have industry experts on, hunting experts on, fishing experts on. Now you're possibly going to get into the philanthropy world of the nonprofit side of things, the industry side of things. So just take the outdoors world and put it in one podcast, baby, and it's here, and it's all rooted at the heart of a veteran who wants to give back. So I couldn't think of a cooler podcast, dude. It's like I get psyched out every time I think about it. I love that you're doing this.
it's just like we had talked about before. I don't want to add too much to it right off the bat. I want to. It's like we had in the army, the KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
I want to keep it simple off the bat, but I just keep looking at the avenues that this could go.
Yeah.
So, I know John's got his idea of what he wants to do with his. It's going to be great. I have no doubt it's going to be great. The guy has his knowledge that he has, and he'll pass it down to anybody. And there's going to be a lot of hunters that benefit from it. I just don't think with mine, if I keep it to where we first started with it, I'm not going to be able to go as far as I want to go with it, with certain things. But it's like I really love the idea that I'm going to be able to give back to, like you said, my brother and sisterhood. That's what gives me that warm fuzzy feeling we always said in the army. It gives me that warm fuzzy feeling. So I love doing it, and I love just talking to guys about a big passion of mine. I love to hunt. I love it, man, because it can evolve into a lot, and it can really get big. I think the main thing for me is I'm going to need you to kind of keep me in place.
That's been the name of the game ever since I've known you. Yeah. You basically
Exactly.
you're a former dog handler, but you kind of need handled yourself. It's I like
Exactly. Adult ADHD.
but I think I was just going to say it too. I think this is probably a good example, though, of what you can expect. One of the things I love about Justin, dude, is it's never a bad conversation. You just call a guy and you don't know what you're going to talk about that day, but boy, it's going to be a good conversation. And the format, I think this is probably a good idea of what these will look like. You're going to obviously have a topic you're talking about. Maybe it's a location, maybe it's a base, maybe it's a state,
Yep.
some sort of person, whether it's a vet who's been stationed at that place, maybe an MWR representative talking about a base specifically. Maybe it's a DNR representative from a state.
Yep.
Maybe it's John. Let's talk about deer hunting today.
Yep.
Whoever it is, you're going to have some kind of topic we're going to talk about that day. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. We're obviously going to dive deep. We're going to pull back, reflect, but it's going to be just a great conversation. And I think that's what people can expect is just turn on your radio when you've got some time and you want to soak up some knowledge about some stuff, man. And we're going to listen to an awesome conversation with just a cool veteran, former Army, and whoever he has on that day to be talking about some really cool stuff and just make people, make people better hunters, give people more knowledge to be better equipped for whatever that next mission is that they have in the outdoors.
Yep. Now, also tell everybody what platforms this is going to be on, so I can find it.
Yeah, man. That's actually my question for you, but yeah, I'll take it. Again,
Yeah,
handling Justin.
yeah.
The no. Yeah, man. So we're gonna host this. This is part of the Prayin and Slayi podcast network. It's a brand new thing, and with Justin coming on and the Hunting the Frontlines podcast. This will be hosted at lightfireoutdoors.com. I think we're going to actually have a dedicated spot for Hunting the Frontlines podcast there.
Yeah.
It will be like hosted officially through Spotify. So anybody that's got a Spotify subscription or just listen to podcasts through Spotify, but anywhere that you can listen to podcasts, this podcast will be available. You want to check out the website, obviously, as we continue to grow and have more resources. This may end up having its own website and that kind of thing too. But as of right now, lightfireoutdoors.com will have its own dedicated page there. You can listen to everything, learn more about Justin, have more resources hosted. And then, yeah, and you just want to tune into the audio files. It'll be everywhere. And then we're also going to get you on YouTube as well, which currently is hosted on our Light Fire Outdoors YouTube channel. We'll have that there in the podcast section of Light Fire Outdoors' channel.
Now, take a few minutes though and talk about Prayin and Slaying a little bit, because this isn't just about me. I want to get your stuff out there too, because there's a lot of great information there. There's a lot of great stories there that I've heard so far.
Yeah, man. So Light the Fire Outdoors is kind of the hub of it all. Light the Fire Outdoors is an outdoor, I'm a veteran myself, so I started the business with the overall mission of giving back proceeds from whatever this turned into when I first started it back in college, giving back a big percentage of the proceeds to veterans and conservation's outreach programs in whatever local communities. Obviously we joined the military. My wife's active duty, so that made it take a little bit different shapes. And now we take whatever the proceeds that come in from the business side of Light the Fire Outdoors, whether it be podcast sponsorships, whether it be my consulting program. That's my primary business now as an outdoors consultant for outdoors industry companies that are up and coming, or merch sales. We have hats and shirts and different things like that available. So whatever proceeds we bring in, we give back a portion, but it's dedicated to wherever we're actually stationed. What we called kind of took its first shape in Maryland. We were just stationed out there for 2 years, but Operation Maryland, we actually did some just we look around our local communities and say, hey, how can we serve veterans here? How can we serve this local community in the outdoor space, conservation space? And obviously, if we can do it through veterans, that's what we try to do. So we actually repaired totally overhauled and repaired two different veterans mailboxes that needed it. That was kind of a fun little, just random project. We saw the need and we just knew they were vets. We're like, dude, like, let's just do this for them. So that was really cool. So you guys all supported that supported our business. Um, we did some landscaping pollinator projects through Pheasants Forever. Same thing. We did those on veteran properties, kind of beautifying their property through landscape. But we utilized Pheasants Forever's pollinator plants that you can get through them. So it supported Pheasants Forever and the veteran. And then we had what we called the Sunfish Pond Project, where we installed two different fishing line recycling places. But that was kind of that local community project. We had a pond back behind our house, about a mile and a half or so. And anyway, it was a hiking trail about every day. I was taking my son out. We were hiking when he went from 1 to 3 in Maryland, and he actually ended up fishing with me. He got his first fish, and we got him introduced to fishing at this pond. So very special to us.
Awesome.
But yeah, one of the first things I realized, you put them on the ground, you get a toddler walking around. If there's fishing line, they're going to find it and get tangled in it. So realized that there was a need for that. So we ended up taking some of those ponds and installing some signage, thanking the people. We actually had some guys that let me mow their lawn as part of Light the Fire Outdoors business. So we actually had local community members, putting money in as well, and they've helped us fund all those projects. So
Awesome.
really cool there. And we, put signage up thanking all the people who support Light the Fire Outdoors and then the specific neighbors that, helped us out through that as well.
Yep.
So that was really fun. Got to put that out there, put those in and get the kiddo involved in just building some fun stuff. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. So then Operation Texas, we're stationed in Texas now, so now we're taking efforts and actually through Index Archery. That's one of our missions now. We've donated 2 bows to those guys that they're going to get in the hands of a veteran.
Good.
Again, just a veteran that's got the right fit for getting into archery to help with PTSD after their service. And the bows that I had were just the raw bows. They have a rest. They've got the bow, very nice, like Martin bows. But at the end of the day, they're still going to need a sight, probably stabilizer, release, arrows, things like that. So once these actually get placed in a veteran's hands, we're going to be taking the funds from Light the Fire Outdoors and sponsoring the equipment that goes on those bows too, and out and those hopefully through some local shops here in Texas. So that's a big part of it. And then One Mission Outdoors is a veteran started nonprofit that's down here as well. that we joined. So part of our proceeds went to joining that membership, which is going to support them. They actually installed the very first ever like open archery range in Bell County, Texas, which is kind of cool. But they put on classes through MWR. They're vets that started it that are all stationed here at Fort Hood in the Army. So they're putting on a ton of classes. They just put on their very first IBO tournament at a basically which was a pretty much abandoned archery range that they overhauled,
Really?
revamped, and now they're attracting IBO and what's the other one? ASA
Yeah.
tournaments that are like state sanctioned tournaments that they're
Yep.
starting to bring community into the base, which is going to help pour money into that base and
Yep.
improve the MWR experience and programs. Really, really cool group of guys. It's really small right now, but we'll be getting involved there, helping out however we can. Most likely will be helping improve like the infrastructure of their actual archery range. It's kind of like the public membership one, just to make it a little bit better place as during our time here to go shoot. Maybe provide some targets. Get Dead Nuts, our primary sponsor of the Prayin and Slayi
Yep.
podcast network. Get some Dead Nuts stuff integrated out there so people can shoot at something other than just bags or block targets.
Yes.
Maybe help them build out some target stands, some bow stands, arrow holders, things like that, that we can just kind of get our hands dirty, get involved with, and put some money towards. So that's that. But then, yeah, the Prayin and Slayin podcast, man. Like I said, we started that a long time ago with just the same mission. As
Yep.
faith's been a big part of my life. That's kind of where the name comes from, the Prayin and Slayin piece. And obviously, I'm a hunter, so it's kind of a faith driven thing. But taking that alongside that same mission and saying, okay, like how do we integrate veterans, conservation, and faith all into one, and hunting into one, one hub. And so that's kind of the origin of the Prayin and Slayin podcast. And same thing, man. You sink your teeth into something in the outdoors industry, and depending on your job and stuff, you may or may not always have the time to do all these side hustles. So it was kind of an ebb and flow and come and go type podcast. And then I had the opportunity last September to just take more time and sink into that podcast. And I really just had a goal to say, like, I felt called just to bring it more full time, and so we dedicated ourselves to making it a biweekly podcast, but it's rooted into the same mission that Life for Outdoors gives back to. So veterans conservation and building outdoors community. So what we do on the Prayin and Slayin podcast, the dedicated Prayin and Slayin podcast, is we bring on veterans, anybody who's been involved in the military side of things, and conservation group employees. So NWTF we just had on, Whitetails Unlimited is going to come on, Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance, the American Pronghorn Foundation, you name it, any organization
Whoa.
that's out there. One of the cool parts about the jobs I've had in the outdoors industry is um, getting involved in building conservation support programs through companies. And so the cool
Yep.
part I like about that I realize in the world of outdoor media podcasts is that most of the people that make these organizations run, like they're all behind the scenes. You wouldn't
Yep.
know who they are from Adam, and you get to meet all these really cool people that maybe their job is just building out sponsorship packages, or maybe they're coordinating the volunteer events, or maybe they're a chapter president that runs a local chapter, or maybe they're the and Bailey Taylor we just had on, she's in charge of bringing in merchandise and deciding what merchandise goes into NWTF events. But the people that like make those organizations tick, it's not always just the CEO or this other person you may have probably heard of on another podcast. So
Yep.
I wanted to kind of dive into that grassroots level of it and say, let's bring you on. Let's hear a little bit about what you do as a cool job. Let's talk about the organization as a whole. But then the best part of what we're all here for, let's talk about hunting stories. So,
Yep.
veterans and conservation people in the space are kind of the primary two guests we'll have on. We'll learn about their service. We had Justin on. It was a really fun podcast. Learned about him and his dog handling career in the Army, and then tell a cool hunting story, man. And then so that one's called Operation Hunt. Operation Conservation. We drag those conservation people out of their desks or their hubs, wherever they're hidden in those organizations, and
Yep.
bring them on, and they get to tell a hunting story and talk about their job. And then I'm getting ready to launch a couple new series this year. So one is going to be a little bit different, more personal, just
Okay.
something I've wanted to do for years, and it was kind of like the origin of where like Prayin and Slayin kind of started. But I'm finally finding a way, I think, to get that integrated, the faith side of things, and just the overall like community building piece. It's going to be called Operation Trailhead. So we'll be launching that here pretty soon. But basically, what that'll be is just shorter, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. It'll probably be a solo talk from me, something that's been on my mind, and just diving a little deep on it just to give people a little
Okay.
good gas, if they're just driving down the road and they just need something to lift them up that day. Kind of dedicated towards that, just
Okay.
building stronger people in the world that needs it right now. So Operation Trailhead will be that. And then Operation Campfire, I think we're going to launch as well. That's where like the John Landers's of the world or whatever we bring in that maybe they don't fit in one of those other categories. This whole thing's about just being part of that outdoors community. So anybody who's in the outdoors world, anybody that I personally know is just a diehard hunter, man, we want to have them on. We want to hear their stories, their successes, maybe get tidbits of knowledge from them as well, or just hear about cool things that they're doing. But again, all rooted around telling a hunting story at the end of the day and getting an inside grassroots look. It's a very long-winded answer to what Prayin and Slayi and Light the Fire Outdoors is, man. But that's where we're at now, and now we're expanding out to cool guys like you and bringing in a podcast network. And Operation Hunt is another very long-winded answer to a kind of a simple idea. It's a place for all these big ideas of people who are rooted in that service space and conservation space, veteran space to just get an outlet for their hunting community and build a bigger hunting community.
Well, the hunting community is huge anyway. So it's like we could talk about it for 4 or 5 hours straight because there's so many avenues in there to go to. And that's like we just talked about a few minutes ago. That's where mine went to. Now it's like, okay, what am I really doing this podcast about? I got to think about that for a minute now.
What are we doing here?
There's so much,
actually,
so much stuff there. I don't know.
Bad idea.
I just don't know. Maybe I drank too many White Claws and had some booger sugar this morning, and now I'm like all jacked up. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you know what? The more I think about this, actually, this whole idea sucks. Let's just stop recording here. And
all right, I'm out. See you.
Let's abandon it. Okay. Yeah. No, man.
I'm glad you got me started on this because I'm enjoying this, and I really think this will be good. Even if it just benefits 2 people, I don't care. I benefited 2 people. It helped them out. That's all I care about.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. No, and appreciate it and appreciate just honestly, man, your friendship, dude. It's been awesome. I'm looking forward to just expanding into this world with you and supporting you however we can through the network piece of it. But man, I think just the core of what you're doing here is really, really cool, and just excited to see what it all turns into. And step 1 is recording the intro launch podcast, which we finally got done. We did it today. This is official, buddy. It's a podcast now. So
well, you kept ghosting me. You ghosted me 15 times. So it's like
that's what I do. That's what I do. I get in these binges of White Claw, and I just can't get myself out of it. And
I know.
Yep.
You have a problem. You have a problem with what you have. As a matter of fact, I will text you some resources for you in just a little bit to help you with that White Claw addiction. I'll help you.
Well, awesome, dude. Well, I'm super stoked to get this thing out there. By the time you're listening, we'll probably have 3 or 4 episodes deep on this with Justin here, just picking the brains of people who are going to make you a better hunter and be more prepared to hunt that next duty station you get stationed at. If you're in the service, find that next place to hunt if you're out of the service or just want to get to know your local area. And then, man, you heard it all here. This thing's going to explode. There's a bajillion ideas, and there's no really telling where it's going to go. But the root is making that learning curve for the veteran and active community a little bit smaller when it comes to hunting and fishing your next duty station, I guess. So with that, guys, I think we're going to leave you to it. Justin, congrats, man, on launching your very first episode.
Thanks,
and thanks for taking a leap with us too in the Prayin and Slayi network and helping us expand, and just looking forward to continuing building this brotherhood up and just watching this thing take off, man.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate it. It's been a blast. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I'm going to let you get back to it. I'm going to go pick up my boys from work. I'm going to come home, and then in about 4.5 hours when it cools down, I'm heading over the hill to change batteries and cameras. Start getting ready for season.
Heck yeah, buddy. Sounds good, man.
All right, well, take care. It was great having you, and I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later, man.
All right, take care.
This has been Hunting the Frontlines with Justin Wilson, a Prayin and Slayi Podcast Network podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to bringing you another episode. Be sure to check out the official Prayin and Slayi Podcast Network partner, Dead Nuts Outdoors. Be sure to check out their lightweight, portable, life-size 2D targets, the best way to freshen up before the season. If you want 10% off your order, go to the link in the show notes to get 10% off and support the Prayin and Slayi Podcast Network mission of supporting veterans and conservation projects in our local communities wherever we're stationed. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time.